You might have heard about return on equity, but have you heard about return on asset? So why is that important to investor, and what is the difference between the two? Hi guys, Stanley here. Investing is most intelligent when it's most business-like. And these are the favorite words of Benjamin Graham, the mentor of Warren Buffett. But what he really meant was that we should not view stock as just a ticker on the stock exchange. There are real businesses behind this ticker symbol, and we should understand the business first before we invest in any one of them. And one good way to understand how well a company is using its resources to generate profit is actually two ratios such as return on equity or return on asset. We have discussed about the explanation of return on equity before, so click on the video on our show notes to find out more about that. But in this video, we're going to talk more about what is return on asset. The return on asset is a measure of how efficient a company is producing profit from all its resources. So first, let's take a step back. Every company, we can group their resources as these three key items. Its asset, the value of all the things it owns and has. Its liability, the value that it owes to other people, mostly the banks or its creditors. And number three is equity, the remaining value that belongs to its shareholders. And these three items make up the balance sheet. For example, if a company has a property that is worth $1 million, that is the asset of the company. But if the property is financed by a loan, say maybe a $900,000 loan, that is the liability of the company. So what the company truly has is not $1 million in value, but rather just $100,000. And that figure is the shareholder equity. That is the amount that the company actually put in for the business and what the shareholders actually own. And to follow on with that example, say from that property, if the company is able to rent it out for a year and collect maybe $20,000 in rental for the year, net of all its expenses, it has made a profit of $20,000 that year. And from those information, we'll be able to calculate its return on asset. And the formula for return on asset is basically ROA is equal to net income divided by all its asset. And in this case, the ROA is $20,000 divided by $1 million, which is 2%. This shows that the company is able to produce a 2% profit from all its asset invested in the business. So if we are able to see a higher figure here, it shows that the company is more efficient in generating profit from its asset. We can also use this figure to compare two companies to see which is more efficiently managed. For example, we have two companies here that produce the same amount of profit, say $1 million a year. Now, company A has a total asset of $10 million, while company B has a total asset of $100 million. We can see that the ROA for these two companies are vastly different. And that company A is far more efficient in its business because it can produce the same amount of profit with much less resources to work with. So the range of return on asset can differ greatly across industry. Say for example, for a utility like Singapore Telecommunication, which is a utility listed in Singapore, it made around $2 billion in the last financial year, but has an asset of over $46 billion. So its return on asset is around 4.5%. And now compare it to a technological company like Microsoft. And we can see that Microsoft has a much higher return on asset of around 18.6%. Well, this is to be expected because a utility company has to invest in huge infrastructure to produce the profit for the company. While a technology company like Microsoft is not using any specific infrastructure to generate the profit, but rather mostly on its talent workforce. Therefore, when investing, a company with a higher return on asset is generally more attractive to investor. It shows us that the company is able to generate higher profit from its business. However, return on asset is just one of many ratios that we can use to evaluate a stock and a company. What we can do is we can combine it with other ratios to give us a clearer picture of the company, allowing us to make better decisions. Well, one of the key ratios to use it with is return on equity, and that will let us know how well the company can generate profit from its shareholder. And there is a close relationship between these two ratios, which can be calculated and linked using this equation. where the return on equity is equal to return on asset times leverage, where leverage is basically asset divided by equity. This means that the company can have very low return on asset, but artificially boost its return on equity by taking on more and more leverage. This will generate more profit for its shareholders, but of course, the added leverage will also increase the risk of the company. Similarly, when a company shows that it has very similar return on asset and return on equity figures, it shows that maybe it's not generating as high a profit as it can for its shareholder. But it also highlights that this company has a very low leverage and thus a much stronger balance sheet position. So the key here is for us to understand the relationship between these two ratios and use it to find out how a company is being managed. So remember to try out this ratio and let us know what interesting company you are able to find. If you enjoy our video, do give us a like and share it with a friend. Please note that all our content here are just for educational purpose only and not investment advice. And that's it from me. My name is Stanley. Till we meet again, invest safely.